The bitter wind howled across the desolate Montana landscape, carrying with it stinging flakes of snow that bit at Fiona Evans' bare feet as she staggered through the deepening drifts. Her swollen belly protruded beneath the thin fabric of her tattered dress, a cruel reminder of both the life within her and the man who had abandoned them, both to this merciless winter of 1876. Blood trickled between her toes, freezing almost instantly against her blue-tinged skin as she pushed forward, one agonizing step after another. The homestead she'd fled lay miles behind her now, smoke still rising from the remnants of what had been her home, her dream, her everything. The raiders had taken it all: her supplies, her horse, her boots. They'd left her with nothing but the clothes on her back and a dying ember of hope that she might reach Silver Creek before nightfall. "Just a little further," she whispered to her unborn child, her voice carried away by the wind. "Just a little further and we'll find help." But Fiona knew better. Silver Creek was still 10 miles distant, and darkness was falling fast. Her legs trembled beneath her, muscles seizing from cold and exhaustion. When she stumbled for the 4th time, her knees sinking into the snow, she didn't immediately rise. Perhaps this was at the end of their journey. Perhaps it would be kinder to surrender to the cold embrace of winter than to continue this futile struggle. A tear froze on her cheek as she pressed a protective hand against her belly. "I'm sorry, little one," she murmured. "I tried." The crunch of snow beneath hooves barely registered over the howling wind, but the shadow that fell across her certainly did. Fiona raised her head, squinting through the swirling snow at the figure astride a powerful chestnut stallion. For one terrifying moment, she feared the raiders had returned to finish what they'd started. "Madam," the voice was deep, questioning, tinged with concern rather than malice. "Good Lord, what are you doing out here?" Fiona tried to speak, but her lips had gone numb. The rider dismounted in one fluid motion, and she caught glimpses of a tall frame, broad shoulders, and a weathered face beneath a wide-brimmed hat. A cowboy, she realized, though in her state he might as well have been an angel. "You're freezing," he said, dropping to one knee beside her. His eyes widened as they took in her condition: the bare, bloodied feet, the thin dress, the swell of her belly. Without hesitation, he shrugged out of his heavy sheepskin coat and wrapped it around her shoulders. The residual warmth from his body engulfed her, and Fiona let out an involuntary sob of relief. "My name's Travis Zimmerman," he said, his voice gentle but urgent. "I've got a cabin not far from here. Can you stand?" Fiona tried to nod, but exhaustion claimed her. The last thing she remembered was being lifted into strong arms, the steady beat of Travis's heart against her ear as consciousness slipped away like the setting sun. When Fiona awoke, it was to warmth, blessed, beautiful warmth that seeped into her bones. She lay on a narrow bed, covered with thick blankets, her feet wrapped in soft bandages. A fire crackled in a stone hearth across the single room of the cabin, casting dancing shadows on log walls. For a moment, she wondered if she had died after all, if this was some kind of heaven. "You're awake." The voice drew her attention to a figure seated nearby, whittling a piece of wood with a pocket knife. Travis Zimmerman set aside his work and leaned forward, concern evident in his deep brown eyes. "How are you feeling?" "Alive," Fiona managed, her voice raspy. "Because of you? Any decent man would have done the same." He stood, moving to the stove where a pot simmered. "You need to eat something. I've made some stew." As he ladled the steaming broth into a bowl, Fiona took stock of her situation. Her dress had been replaced by a clean, oversized shirt that must have belonged to Travis. Her feet throbbed beneath their bandages, but the pain was manageable. "The baby?" she asked suddenly, pressing a hand to her belly. "Seems fine, far as I can tell," Travis said, approaching with the bowl. "There's a midwife in Silver Creek I can fetch when the time comes, but that looks to be a ways off yet." He helped her sit up, supporting her back with pillows, and when he was satisfied she could manage, he placed the bowl in her hands. The rich aroma of beef and vegetables made her stomach growl appreciatively. "You've been mighty kind, Mr. Zimmerman," Fiona said after several spoonfuls. "I don't know how to thank you." "Travis," he corrected gently. "And you can thank me by telling me what in tarnation you were doing wandering barefoot in a snowstorm." His tone remained mild, but his eyes betrayed his worry. Fiona hesitated, the memories of the previous day flooding back, the pounding on the door, the rough voices, her husband Richard's futile attempt to defend their homestead. "Raiders," she said at last. "They came yesterday morning, burned us out." She swallowed hard. "Killed my husband." Travis's expression darkened. "The Blackwell gang, I don't know their names," Fiona admitted. "There were 5 of them. They took everything, food, supplies, even my boots. Said a pregnant widow had no business trying to make it through winter alone." Her voice cracked. "They were going to take me to Fort Benson and sell me. I ran when they were dividing our supplies." Travis's jaw tightened. "I've heard stories about that gang, been terrorizing homesteaders all across the territory." He set the empty bowl aside. "Mrs. Evans, Fiona." A small smile touched his lips. "Fiona, then, I want you to know that you're safe here, my word on it." The simple declaration held such conviction that Fiona found herself believing him despite everything. "This cabin isn't much, but it's warm and secure. You can stay until spring if need be." "I couldn't impose, it's no imposition," Travis interrupted. "I've got plenty of supplies, and I'd sleep easier knowing you and your little one aren't out there at the mercy of the elements or those raiders." He stood, moving to stoke the fire. "Besides, you're in no condition to travel, and I don't imagine you've got anywhere particular to go." The truth of his words stung, but Fiona couldn't deny them. Richard had insisted they try their luck in Montana territory, far from her family in Pennsylvania. They'd sunk every penny into the homestead, and now it was gone along with the man she'd followed west with stars in her eyes and dreams of a better life. "I'll earn my keep," she promised, fighting back tears. "I can cook so clean, we'll figure all that out later," Travis said. "Right now you need rest, doctor's orders." At her questioning look, he smiled ruefully. "Not a real doctor, mind you, but I patched up enough men during the war to know when someone's at the end of their rope." "Which side?" Fiona couldn't help asking. "Union," Travis replied simply. "Cavalry." My father and brothers fought for the Union," she said. "From Pennsylvania." Something unspoken passed between them, a shared understanding of loss and duty that transcended their brief acquaintance. Travis nodded once, as if confirming something to himself. "Get some sleep, Fiona," he said, his voice gentle. "You're safe now, I promise you that." As he turned to leave, she caught his sleeve. "Thank you, Travis, for the coat, for everything." His calloused hand briefly covered hers. "My word is my bond, madam, always has been." Fiona watched him move to a chair by the fire, where he resumed his whittling. The rhythmic scrape of knife against wood lulled her into a sense of security she hadn't felt since before the raiders came. As sleep claimed her once more, she realized she believed him, this stranger who had wrapped her in his coat, and his word with equal conviction. The days that followed fell into an unexpected pattern. As Fiona's strength returned, she insisted on taking over the cooking and mending, despite Travis's protests that she should rest. Her feet healed slowly, the frostbite having been less severe than feared, though she still winced when putting her full weight on them. Travis spent his days tending to his small herd of cattle, checking trap lines, and making repairs to the cabin and corral that had apparently been put off for too long. He was a quiet man, Fiona discovered, but not unfriendly. In the evenings, after supper, he would sometimes share stories of his life, of growing up in Missouri, of joining the cavalry at 19, of coming west after the war in search of something he couldn't quite name. "Why cattle?" Fiona asked one night, nearly 2 weeks after he'd found her. "Most men who come this far north are after gold or furs." Travis considered the question as he cleaned his revolver, a task he performed with methodical precision each evening. "Cattle are honest," he said finally. "They don't lie or cheat or pretend to be something they're not. Feed them, treat them right, they'll do the same for you." He reassembled the weapon with practiced ease. "I had my fill of men's schemes during the war," Fiona nodded, understanding more than she let on. "Richard was like that, always looking for the next big opportunity. It's why we came west." She rested a hand on her belly. "He had such plans." "He sounds like he was a good man," Travis offered. "He was," Fiona agreed, though the words felt hollow. In truth, their marriage had been strained long before the raiders came. Richard's dreams had always seemed just out of reach, each failure breeding resentment that he increasingly drowned in whiskey. She had loved him once, but the man who died defending their homestead was a shadow of the one she'd married. "What will you do come spring?" Travis asked, breaking into her thoughts. It was a question Fiona had been asking herself. "I'm not sure," she admitted. "My family's all back east, and I don't have the means to return. I suppose I could try to find work in Silver Creek, though who'd hire a woman with a newborn is beyond me." Travis was silent for a long moment. "There's another option," he said at last. "The cabin's small, but it could be expanded. Land's good for grazing, water's plentiful. It's a hard life, but an honest one." His eyes met hers. "You could stay," Fiona's breath caught. "Travis, not asking for anything improper," he hastened to add. "There's an old trapper's cabin about a half-mile upstream. Needs work, but it could be made comfortable enough. You and the little one could stay there, help with the ranch when you're able. In return, you'd have a roof, food, protection." He shrugged, suddenly self-conscious. "Just an idea." The offer was generous, more than generous, yet Fiona sensed there was more to it than Travis was saying. "Why would you do this for a stranger?" Travis set his revolver aside, his weathered face thoughtful in the firelight. "Maybe I'm tired of being alone," he said simply. "Or maybe I just believe that folks out here need to look after one another. Either way, the offer stands, no strings attached and no time limit. You decide what's best for you and your child." Fiona found herself smiling at his directness. "I'll think on it," she promised. And think on it she did, through the long nights when the baby's kicking kept her awake, and through the days when she watched Travis going about his work with quiet competence. He was a striking figure, tall and broad-shouldered, with a face that spoke of hard years lived honestly. Not handsome in the conventional sense, perhaps, but appealing in a way that grew more evident the longer she knew him. The snows continued, isolating the cabin in a white expanse that stretched to the horizon. Travis made occasional trips to Silver Creek for supplies, always returning with some small luxury for Fiona: a jar of peaches, a book of poetry, once even a pair of soft leather boots that must have cost him dearly. "Can't have you going barefoot again," he'd said gruffly when she'd protested the expense. "Consider it an investment in my peace of mind." It was during one of Travis's absences, nearly a month after her arrival, that the raiders returned. Fiona was kneading bread dough when she heard the horses approach. At first she thought it was Travis returning early, but there were too many hoofbeats, the rhythm all wrong. Heart pounding, she moved to the window, careful to stay out of sight as she peered through the frost-edged glass. 5 riders, just as before. The same 5 who had destroyed her home, killed her husband, and left her to die in the snow. Panic threatened to overwhelm her, but Fiona forced it down. Travis had shown her where he kept his spare revolver, had even taken the time to teach her how to use it during the long evenings. With trembling hands, she retrieved the weapon from its hiding place beneath a loose floorboard and checked that it was loaded. The riders dismounted, their voices carrying in the still winter air. "Zimmerman, get out here, you son of a bitch." Fiona's blood ran cold. They knew Travis. Worse, they seemed to have some grievance with him. "Looks like he ain't home, Blackwell," another voice called. "Then we wait," came the reply. "Man's got to come back eventually, and when he does, he'll pay for what he did to my brother." Fiona fought to control her breathing. Travis hadn't mentioned any connection to the raiders, yet it seemed there was bad blood between them. She considered her options: hide and hope they didn't search the cabin, confront them with the revolver, or attempt to slip out the back and make for the trees. The decision was made for her when the door crashed open, splintering around the lock. Fiona raised the revolver with both hands, steadying it as Travis had taught her. "Well, well," drawled a tall man with a pockmarked face and cold eyes. "What have we here? Zimmerman got himself a woman." "Get out," Fiona said, her voice steadier than she felt. "Now." The man, Blackwell, she presumed, laughed. "Or what, darlin', you'll shoot me?" He took a step forward. "Wait a minute, I know you. You're that homesteader's wife, the one that got away." His eyes narrowed. "Small world." I said get out, Fiona repeated, cocking the revolver. Now, Blackwell raised his hands in a mocking gesture of surrender. Let's not be hasty. We're just here to have a conversation with Zimmerman. Seems he killed my brother 2 weeks back, shot him down in Silver Creek like a dog. Fiona's mind raced. 2 weeks ago would have been during one of Travis's supply runs. He'd returned later than expected, quieter than usual, but had offered no explanation. Mitch tried to rob the general store, came a familiar voice from behind Blackwell. Drew on an unarmed shopkeeper. Travis intervened. Fiona's gaze shifted to the doorway where Travis stood, rifle raised, his expression grim. Snow dusted his shoulders and hat, and his breath clouded in the cold air. Blackwell turned slowly. Zimmerman, been looking for you. So I gathered, Travis replied evenly. Your quarrels with me, Blackwell. Let the lady be. Funny thing about that, Blackwell said. Turns out we already have a history with your lady friend here. Small territory after all. Travis's eyes flicked briefly to Fiona, comprehension dawning. You're the ones who burned out the Evans homestead. Among others, Blackwell admitted with a shrug. Nothing personal, just business. You killed my husband, Fiona said, the revolver still trained on Blackwell. You left me to die in the snow. And yet here you are, Blackwell observed. Cozy as can be with Zimmerman. Didn't take you long to replace your man, did it? Travis's voice cut through the tension like a blade. You and your men need to leave, Blackwell, now, before this gets any uglier than it has to. Or what? Blackwell sneered. You'll shoot us all. There are 5 of us, Zimmerman. 4, Travis corrected. Unless your brother's ghost is riding with you, his voice hardened, and I've faced worse odds. A tense silence fell, broken only by the crackle of the fire and the harsh breathing of the men. Fiona kept the revolver steady, though her arms had begun to ache from the effort. She could see 3 more raiders just outside the door, hands hovering near their weapons. You know, Blackwell said finally, I was just going to kill you quick for what you did to Mitch. But now I'm thinking I'll take my time, maybe start with your woman there. He made a slight movement toward his holster. It was all the provocation Travis needed. The rifle cracked, and Blackwell staggered backward, clutching his shoulder. Before the other raiders could react, Travis had chambered another round and fired again, catching a second man in the leg as he attempted to draw. The remaining raiders scattered, diving for cover as Fiona squeezed the trigger of her revolver, the shot going wide but forcing them to keep their heads down. Get behind the table, Travis shouted, ducking inside and slamming the door as bullets splintered the wood around him. Fiona did as instructed, overturning the heavy oak table to create a barricade. Travis joined her, reloading his rifle with practiced efficiency. When I give the word, I want you to make for the root cellar, he instructed. There's a trapdoor beneath the bearskin rug. It'll lead you to a tunnel that comes out behind the woodshed. I'm not leaving you, Fiona protested. This isn't a debate, Travis replied, his voice firm but not unkind. That's my child you're carrying. The words hung between them for a heartbeat before Fiona realized his meaning. He was creating a story, a reason she should be protected at all costs. Your child, she repeated slowly. Travis met her gaze. Far as they know, yes, and I aim to make sure both of you survive this. He checked his ammunition. They'll be repositioning, probably try to come in from all sides. When the shooting starts again, you run. Understand, Fiona wanted to argue, but the determined set of Travis's jaw told her it would be futile. I understand, she said instead, but you had better be right behind me, Travis Zimmerman, your word on it. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. My word, he promised. The attack came moments later, a hail of gunfire from multiple directions that shattered windows and punched holes through the cabin walls. Travis returned fire methodically, each shot deliberate, as Fiona crawled toward the bearskin rug. She located the trapdoor and pulled it open to reveal a narrow set of stairs descending into darkness. Go, Travis shouted over the gunfire. I'll be right behind you. Fiona hesitated for only a moment before climbing down, one hand protectively cradling her belly. The cellar was cold and smelled of earth and root vegetables. As promised, a crude tunnel extended from one corner, barely large enough for a man to crawl through. She had just reached the entrance when a massive crash from above was followed by shouting and the sound of a struggle. Travis hadn't followed her, heart pounding. Fiona faced an impossible choice: continue to safety as Travis had instructed, or return to help the man who had saved her life. The sensible option was clear. In her condition, she would be more hindrance than help in a fight. Yet the thought of abandoning Travis to face the raiders alone was unbearable. Before she could decide, the trapdoor flew open. Fiona raised the revolver, prepared to fire, only to lower it when Travis's familiar form descended the stairs, moving with a slight limp. "We need to move," he said urgently. "I managed to wound another two, but they're still coming." "You're hurt," Fiona observed, noticing the dark stain spreading on his left thigh. "It's nothing," Travis insisted. "Just a graze, come on." The tunnel was a tight fit, especially for Travis's broad shoulders and Fiona's pregnant belly, but they managed to crawl through its length, emerging as promised behind the woodshed. The bitter cold hit them immediately, and Fiona was grateful for the coat Travis insisted she wear despite his own wound. "The horses are tethered about a quarter-mile through those trees," Travis said, pointing to a dense copse of pines. "If we can reach them, we can make it to Silver Creek by dawn." They set off through the deep snow, Travis breaking trail while keeping a vigilant watch behind them. The going was slow, each step an effort in the knee-deep drifts. Fiona's feet, not fully healed from her previous ordeal, began to throb painfully within her boots, but she pressed on without complaint. They had nearly reached the tree line when a shout from behind announced that their escape had been discovered. Travis grabbed Fiona's arm, pulling her into a faster pace as bullets whizzed past them, kicking up plumes of snow where they struck. "Keep going," Travis urged, pushing her ahead of him as he turned to return fire. "Don't stop for anything." Fiona stumbled forward, the trees offering some cover from the raiders' bullets. She could hear Travis behind her, his breathing labored, his footsteps uneven. When she glanced back, she saw that his limp had worsened, the snow behind him marked with droplets of blood. "Travis, you're bleeding too much," she called, slowing to allow him to catch up. "Don't worry about me," he grunted, though his face had grown alarmingly pale. "Just need to reach the horses." They pushed on, the sounds of pursuit growing fainter as the woods thickened around them. When they finally reached the small clearing where Travis had concealed their mounts, Fiona could have wept with relief. Two sturdy horses waited, stamping impatiently in the snow. Travis helped Fiona mount first, his strength clearly flagging. When he attempted to pull himself into his own saddle, he faltered, nearly falling before Fiona caught his arm. "You're in no condition to ride alone," she said firmly. "Get up here with me." "Fiona, that's not a request, Cowboy," she interrupted, her tone brooking no argument. "Your word was that you'd be right behind me. I'm holding you to it." A weak smile crossed Travis's face as he relented, allowing Fiona to help him mount behind her. She could feel his warmth at her back, his arms encircling her waist to hold the reins, his breath against her neck. "Silver Creek," he murmured, urging the horse forward. "Doc Wilson will patch me up." They rode hard, the second horse trailing behind on a lead rope. Travis's condition worsened as the night wore on, his grip on the reins slackening, his body slumping against Fiona's back. She found herself taking over, guiding the horse along the trail Travis had indicated while constantly checking that he remained conscious. "Stay with me," she urged whenever his head drooped too low. "Tell me about your cattle, tell me about Missouri, tell me anything, Travis, just keep talking." And he did, his voice growing weaker, but never stopping entirely. He told her about his childhood on his father's farm, about his dreams of building a cattle empire in Montana, about the loneliness of the past 5 years since coming west after the war. "Never thought I'd find anyone out here," he admitted as dawn began to lighten the eastern sky. "Then there you were, standing in the snow like some kind of miracle." "Some miracle," Fiona said with a weak laugh, "barefoot, pregnant, and half frozen to death." "Most beautiful sight I ever saw," Travis insisted, his voice slurring slightly. "Knew right then I'd do anything to keep you safe." Fiona's heart constricted at his words. In the short time she'd known Travis Zimmerman, He had shown her more kindness and respect than Richard had in years of marriage. He had taken her in, protected her, offered her a future when she had none. And now he was bleeding in her arms because of it. "We're almost there," she said, spotting smoke rising from chimneys in the distance. "Silver Creek is just ahead. Stay with me, Travis." His only response was a faint murmur against her shoulder. The town was stirring to life as they rode down the main street. A few early risers stopping to stare at the unusual sight, a heavily pregnant woman supporting a bleeding man on a lathered horse. Fiona headed directly for the building with a faded sign proclaiming Dr. Wilson, physician and surgeon. "Help," she called as she reined in the exhausted horse. "Please, I need help." The commotion brought several townspeople running, including a balding man in suspenders who identified himself as the doctor. With the assistance of two younger men, they carefully lifted Travis from the horse and carried him into the clinic. "What happened?" Dr. Wilson demanded as he cut away Travis's blood-soaked trousers to reveal an ugly bullet wound. "Raiders," Fiona explained breathlessly. "The Blackwell gang. They attacked the cabin. Travis was shot helping me escape." Recognition flashed in the doctor's eyes. "You're the woman he rescued from the snowstorm," he said, his hands already busy cleaning the wound. "He mentioned you when he was in town 2 weeks back." The doctor frowned. "Right before that business with Mitch Blackwell at the general store." "Will he be all right?" Fiona asked, unable to keep the fear from her voice. Dr. Wilson hesitated. "Bullet's still in there and he's lost a lot of blood, but Travis Zimmerman's one of the toughest men I know." He nodded toward a chair. "Sit down before you fall down, Mrs. Evans," Fiona supplied. "Fiona Evans." "Well, Mrs. Evans, I suggest you rest while I see to Mr. Zimmerman. In your condition, you ought not to be riding across the territory in the dead of winter." His tone was gently chiding, but his eyes were kind. "There's a boarding house next door where you can wait." "I'm staying," Fiona said firmly, taking Travis's hand in hers. It was cold, too cold, but she could feel a pulse beating beneath her fingers. "He wouldn't leave me, and I won't leave him." The doctor studied her for a moment before nodding. "As you wish. But at the first sign of that baby coming, you're going straight to my wife's care, understood?" Fiona agreed, settling into the chair without releasing Travis's hand. As the doctor worked to extract the bullet and stitch the wound, she found herself praying something she hadn't done since leaving Pennsylvania. She prayed for Travis's recovery, for their safety from the Blackwell gang, and for the future that suddenly seemed both fragile and precious. Hours passed, the doctor's skilled hands working tirelessly. When he finally straightened, wiping blood from his fingers, his expression was cautiously optimistic. "He's young and strong," Dr. Wilson told Fiona. "The bullet missed the major vessels, though it did nick the bone. With proper care and time to heal, he should recover fully." Relief washed over Fiona like a wave. "Thank you," she whispered. "Don't thank me yet," the doctor cautioned. "There's still the risk of fever and he'll need careful tending." He paused. "And there's the matter of the Blackwell gang. They're not likely to let this lie." "I know," Fiona said grimly, "but neither are we." Word of the attack spread quickly through Silver Creek. By midday, the town marshal had organized a posse to track down the remaining raiders, who had apparently been terrorizing settlements across 3 territories. The discovery that they had attacked Travis Zimmerman, a well-respected rancher with friends throughout the region, had galvanized the community in a way that previous raids had not. Travis regained consciousness that evening, his first words a raspy inquiry about Fiona's welfare. "I'm fine," she assured him, squeezing his hand. "Thanks to you." He struggled to sit up, wincing at the pain in his leg. "The Blackwells, the marshal's hunting them down as we speak," Fiona said soothingly. "Everyone in town is talking about how you stood up to them." "You're quite the hero, Travis Zimmerman." A flush that had nothing to do with fever colored his cheeks. "Just did what needed doing," he mumbled. "You saved my life," Fiona reminded him. "Again, that's becoming a habit of yours." Travis's eyes held hers. "One I'd be happy to continue if you'll let me." Before Fiona could respond, the door to the clinic opened to admit the marshal, a grizzled man with a star pinned to his weathered vest. He removed his hat as he approached Travis's bedside. "Zimmerman," he greeted with a nod. "Glad to see you awake. Any news of the Blackwells?" Travis asked, getting straight to the point. The marshal's expression was grim but satisfied. "Got 3 of them cornered at Parker's Gulch. 2 dead, 1 wounded bad enough he won't last the night." He glanced at Fiona. "Blackwell himself and 1 other got away, but they're heading east with half the county on their trail. Don't reckon they'll be troubling Montana territory again." Relief flooded through Fiona. While she took no pleasure in the deaths of the raiders, knowing that they would no longer threaten her child's future was a weight lifted from her shoulders. "Thank you, Marshal," she said sincerely. The lawman tipped his hat. "Just doing my job, madam. Though I reckon we owe Zimmerman here a debt of gratitude. Been trying to catch that gang for months." He turned back to Travis. "Doc says you'll be laid up for a spell. Anything you need for your place?" Travis hesitated, then seemed to come to a decision. "Actually, Marshal, I was hoping you might be able to help with something else entirely." 3 weeks later, on a clear, cold February morning, Fiona stood beside Travis's bed in the small room above the doctor's office that had become their temporary home. Travis had progressed from bedridden to crutches, though Dr. Wilson still insisted he avoid putting weight on his injured leg. "Are you certain about this?" Fiona asked, smoothing the front of the simple blue dress that the doctor's wife had altered to accommodate her growing belly. "There's no rush, Travis. We could wait until spring, until you're fully healed." Travis reached for her hand, his calloused fingers gentle against her skin. "I've never been more certain of anything in my life," he said softly, "unless you've changed your mind." Fiona shook her head, a smile tugging at her lips. "Not a chance, Cowboy." A knock at the door heralded the arrival of the town's minister, followed by Dr. Wilson and his wife, who would serve as witnesses. The ceremony was brief but heartfelt, the words of commitment exchanged with quiet certainty between 2 people who had found in each other an unexpected second chance. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Travis pulled Fiona close, his kiss conveying everything words could not: gratitude, promise, and a love that had grown from the seeds of compassion to something enduring and true. "My wife," he murmured against her lips. "My family." Fiona placed his hand on her belly, where their child, for it truly was theirs now, kicked vigorously as if in approval. "Your family," she agreed. "Forever." The years that followed were not without challenges. The Zimmerman ranch flourished under their joint care, expanding from a modest cattle operation to one of the most successful in the territory. The cabin grew as well, room by room, as their family increased, first with the birth of Elizabeth, the daughter Travis had vowed to protect before she was even his, and later with sons Jacob and Samuel. On cold winter evenings, when the children were tucked into bed and the fire burned low in the hearth, Travis and Fiona would sometimes speak of that first meeting of a desperate woman standing barefoot in the snow, and the cowboy who wrapped her in his coat and his word. A chance encounter that had changed the course of 2 lives, bringing warmth and purpose where once there had been only cold isolation. "Do you ever regret it?" Fiona asked on their 10th anniversary, her head resting on Travis's shoulder as they sat on the porch of their home, watching the sunset paint the Montana sky in hues of gold and crimson. "Taking in a strange woman and her unborn child, risking your life for us." Travis's arm tightened around her, his voice soft but certain. "Not for a single moment," he said, pressing a kiss to her temple. "Best decision I ever made." Fiona smiled, thinking of the frightened, desperate woman she had been, and the strong, content woman she had become, thanks in large part to the man beside her, whose quiet strength and unwavering devotion had given her the courage to build a new life from the ashes of the old. "I love you, Travis Zimmerman," she whispered, the words as true now as they had been on their wedding day. His response was simple, heartfelt, and as reliable as the man himself. "And I love you, Fiona Zimmerman, always will." As twilight deepened around them, Fiona reflected that some promises, like the one Travis had made when he wrapped her in his coat on that fateful winter day, were meant to last a lifetime. And this one, wrapped in love and sealed with unwavering devotion, had done exactly that.